My name is Teddy Jacobson of Actions by T. I am a pistol smith in Sugar Land, Texas. I am a trigger specialist and work on over 100 different models of handgun actions. This tape will help you evaluate the best handgun for you. I will separate fact from fiction. I will explain many things that you could never read in a publication. My only intent is honesty and integrity in making this video. There is a lot to cover, and I will work from a checklist. You will have a much better understanding of reality in your evaluation of a handgun to carry for protection of life and property. A selection of a handgun for a woman is quite different than for a man. And first, I'm going to explain the basic types of mechanics of a gun. There are revolvers and there are semi-autos. For instance, this is a Smith & Wesson revolver, and this is a hammerless type, but as you put, of course, all my weapons are empty, but as you pull the trigger on a gun like this, which is a revolver, the cylinder turns. And different brands of manufacturer turn different directions. Some cylinders, from looking from the back, rotate clockwise, and some counterclockwise. And I'll explain how to identify all this. If you were looking at a Ruger, they also turn this turns counterclockwise. If someone were to point a revolver at you, and you understood the mechanics of this gun, and you were close enough and quick enough, you could keep them from shooting you. If you were to grab this gun and hold it with the cylinder and the barrel just like this, nobody can pull the trigger. In other words, you can defeat this weapon by just holding on tight to the cylinder because there's no hammer. They cannot pull the trigger and shoot you. If someone pulled a gun on you like this, which was also a revolver, and let's say the hammer was forward, which it is now, you could still do the same thing. They could not shoot you. But if the hammer was back and you held just the cylinder, they could still pull the trigger and shoot you. But if you grabbed it and put your finger between the frame and the hammer, holding on to the cylinder, if they pulled the trigger, they could not shoot you. These are the basic mechanics of a revolver that I wanted to explain to you first. There are ways to defeat all these weapons once you learn how they operate. Now, in order to identify whether a revolver goes clockwise or counterclockwise is very important. For instance, this Ruger, I'm going to get a close-up of this. There's what they call a hand. Ruger calls it a pawl, but it's basically a hand, and when you pull the trigger, that hand comes up and rotates the cylinder. Well, if it's on, this is called a recoil shield. If it's on the right side of the recoil shield, it will rotate the cylinder counterclockwise. Smith & Wesson, this is a Smith, is also on the right side. And if you can, the hand is on the right side of the recoil shield, and it rotates the cylinder in a counterclockwise direction as you're looking from the rear only. Now, if you had a Colt, which this is a Colt revolver, if you'll see here, the hand is on the left side. We'll see if we can get a little more light on it. The hand, which comes up, is on the left side. So therefore, the Colt cylinder rotates clockwise, just the opposite. So looking from the rear, it's a clockwise motion. Now, if someone pulled this gun on you and you grabbed it, providing you noticed that the hammer was fully forward, nobody can pull that trigger and shoot you. Now, if the hammer was back, they can still shoot you, unless you put your finger and grab it so that if they do pull the trigger, the hammer falls on your finger. You can keep from getting shot. I wanted to explain the mechanics of this so you would understand how a revolver operates. Most women will find, and this video is geared for women only, most women will find that in their purse a hammer will snag. It'll snag on items in your purse or whatever. It's real good to buy one of these Centennial model revolvers that have no concealed hammer. It's all internal, and there's nothing to snag. This is an excellent idea for a self-defense weapon for a woman, the Smith & Wesson line of Centennial revolvers. This happens to be a model 640. This particular revolver has had the trigger contoured and polished, so it's easier for a person to pull. There's no sharp edges here where it would catch and hurt your finger. I think revolvers are probably best for most women. This particular revolver, if you see the sights, we always put the brightest color in the front for quick acquisition. It's very important that you have the dominant color in the front, because in a social encounter you will have only a couple of seconds. There are people that worry about carrying 15-shot revolvers, but in reality, if you don't make it in the first 2 shots, it's over. You're not going to have a whole lot of time to decide. But also, speaking of revolvers, North American Arms makes what they call mini revolvers. This is a little revolver that is excellent. It's a .22 long rifle. They make them in 22 short, which I don't recommend, but the .22 long rifle and the .22 Magnum are excellent little guns. These can be hidden away. They can be carried in a pocket. This is a holster made for this, and you can keep it in a pocket. They make ankle holsters for it, and the way this comes apart is you have a little rod in the front, and the takedown assembly is you push this rod in, and this slips out. There it goes. And then you just take the cylinder out, and you load it up, and then you put it back in. And this holds five rounds. And it's a quite ingenious little gun, and it's super reliable. And you can be safe by carrying this with the hammer forward on a loaded bullet, because there are notches between the chambers where the firing pin would rest. The trouble is, holding on to a gun like this and shooting it is very difficult. It's single action only. You have to pull the hammer back for each shot. That's the only drawback, and it's hard to hold on to because the recoil can be severe. But A gun like this could absolutely save your life. There's an awful lot of police officers that carry one of these in their pocket. As we're talking about revolvers, this is a Smith & Wesson. It's a super lightweight titanium cylinder, and it only weighs about 12 or 13 ounces empty, and the recoil is severe. It's a .38 special. You should not consider any caliber less than a .380. That's a .380 ACP, which ACP means automatic Colt pistol. So when they say .380, they're talking about a .380 ACP cartridge. You should not even consider any caliber less than that, because it won't be effective. But again, this is one of their Centennial models, and you could either use rubber grips, or this